In the vast expanse of space, humanity had always wondered if we were alone. Turns out we weren't, and neither were they. The Galactic Empire, spanning thousands of star systems, had never encountered a species quite like us. They conquered countless civilizations, all falling neatly into their carefully categorized database of predictable responses: immediate surrender, futile resistance, or desperate pleas for mercy. But humans, we were different. When their massive fleet appeared in our solar system, positioning their planet-killer weapons around Earth, they expected the usual: fear, panic, chaos. Instead, they got a message that would change the course of galactic history forever. You say you've conquered 1,000 worlds. The transmission began, broadcasted from the United Earth Defense Council. But tell me, have any of them ever pushed back? Really pushed back? Because you should know something about humans. We don't just fight wars. We perfect them. The Empire's diplomatic AI translated our message, struggling to comprehend the calm confidence in those words. Their supreme commander, a being who had overseen the subjugation of entire solar systems, actually laughed. How cute, they thought. How primitive. That's when we showed them our history. Not the achievements, not the art or culture or scientific breakthroughs. No, we showed them our wars. Every brutal conflict, every desperate last stand, every against all odds victory. We showed them how we'd fought ourselves for millennia, honing our strategies, advancing our technologies, learning from every battle. The Empire's analysts watched in growing horror as they realized what they were seeing: a species that had mastered the art of warfare before even leaving their own atmosphere. A species that had developed more military innovations in their short history than the Empire had in 10,000 years. We don't want war, the transmission continued. We've had enough of it. But if you force our hand, understand this: you won't be fighting some untested species. You'll be fighting an entire civilization that has turned warfare into an art form. We fought in deserts, in jungles, in Arctic wastelands. We fought in cities and mountains, in the depths of our oceans. And now we're ready to fight among the stars. The Empire's response was silence. Pure, stunned silence. Their massive ships hummed motionless in space as their strategic computers ran simulation after simulation. Each one ended the same way, with catastrophic losses on both sides. They had superior numbers, superior technology, superior resources. But we had something they'd never encountered before: the experience of being the underdog and winning anyway. So here's our warning, the transmission concluded. You can turn around now. Return to your empire. Tell them you found a system not worth the cost of taking. Or you can stay, and we'll show you why every human child knows the story of David and Goliath. Your choice. But choose wisely, because unlike all those other species in your database, we won't be fighting for survival. We'll be fighting for victory. As the Empire's ships remained frozen in position, a small craft launched from Earth. Not a weapon, not a threat, just a data package. Inside was detailed documentation of the Battle of Thermopylae, the defeat of the Spanish Armada, the Russians in winter, guerrilla warfare tactics, and countless other examples of humanity's capacity to defy overwhelming odds. The question now hanging in the cold void of space was simple. Would the Empire take the warning for what it was, a chance to avoid a costly mistake, or would they learn the hard way why humans alone had a word for Pyrrhic victory? The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see who would make the next move. Hours ticked by as Earth's population watched the skies, their hearts pounding with a strange mix of fear and determination. In homes and bunkers across the planet, parents held their children close while secretly checking their combat gear. Veterans of past conflicts found themselves automatically falling back into old habits, assessing defensive positions and calculating odds. We hadn't started this fight, but by God, we were ready to finish it. The Empire's massive ships continued their eerie stillness, their energy signatures fluctuating in patterns our analysts couldn't quite decode. Were they preparing for attack? Or were they actually considering our warning? The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Meanwhile, in the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, the United Earth Defense Council was reviewing centuries of warfare simulation data. They'd been preparing for this moment ever since we first detected signs of alien civilization 50 years ago. Every military strategy ever conceived had been updated for space warfare. Every guerrilla tactic had been adapted for zero gravity. Even our ancient naval warfare doctrines had been reimagined for three-dimensional space combat. "They're scanning the data package," announced the Chief of Communications, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Their processing patterns suggest they're paying particular attention to the Vietnam War sections and the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union." A grim smile spread across the face of the Council's military historian. Those weren't random choices. They were studying exactly what we wanted them to see. Examples of supposedly superior forces being fought to a standstill by determined defenders using unconventional tactics. What the Empire didn't know was that we'd been preparing other surprises too. Hidden throughout the solar system were thousands of automated defense platforms, disguised as ordinary space debris. Our asteroid mining operations had secretly been converting entire space rocks into mobile fortress bases. Even the civilian space fleet had been designed with military applications in mind, capable of being converted to combat roles within hours. Then came the first response from the Empire's fleet. Not an attack, but a request for more information. Specifically, they wanted to know about something they'd found in the data package, a concept called mutually assured destruction. The Council members exchanged knowing looks. The Empire had stumbled upon one of humanity's darkest yet most effective peacekeeping strategies. The idea that sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to make sure nobody can win it. "Send them the Cold War files," ordered the Council President. "Let them understand why we developed technologies we hoped never to use." As that data transmitted, our long-range sensors detected movement from the Empire's fleet. Several ships were adjusting their positions, but not in attack formation. Instead, they appeared to be taking up defensive postures. Were they starting to understand? Deep in the Empire's command ship, the Supreme Commander was experiencing something entirely new: doubt. Their species had evolved past warfare millennia ago, choosing to rely on overwhelming force and advanced technology to maintain order. But these humans, they had evolved through warfare, been shaped by it, learned to thrive in it. The tactical AI was still processing the historical data, but one pattern was becoming clear. Humans didn't just fight wars. They transformed them. Every major conflict in their history had changed the very nature of warfare itself. From the invention of the chariot to the development of nuclear deterrence, they had consistently proven capable of revolutionary military innovation under pressure. And now the Empire had to decide. Were they ready to face an enemy who had spent their entire existence preparing for this moment? An enemy who viewed defeat not as an end, but as a lesson to learn from. The weight of that decision hung in the balance as Earth's defenders waited, ready for whatever came next. The Empire's Supreme Commander was facing a crisis unlike any in their 1,000-year career. Their tactical displays showed Earth's solar system lit up like a spider's web of potential threats and unknowns. Every asteroid could be a fortress, every piece of space debris a weapon. The humans had turned their entire solar system into one massive defensive grid, while the Empire wasn't looking. But what truly unsettled them was the latest data they discovered about human warfare. It wasn't just the battles or the strategies. It was how humans adapted. During their world wars, they'd gone from horses to nuclear weapons in just a few decades. The Empire had taken centuries to achieve similar technological leaps. A message from Earth interrupted their contemplation. "We notice you've been studying our history carefully," the transmission began. "So you've probably realized something by now. Humans don't just fight with weapons. We fight with innovation. Every war we've ever fought has spawned new technologies, new strategies, new ways of thinking. And we've had 6 months since we first detected your fleet's approach to prepare some innovations specifically for you." The Empire's sensors suddenly detected energy signatures they'd never seen before emerging from Jupiter's moons. Their tactical AI struggled to classify the readings. They weren't weapons, at least not any kind they recognized, but they were definitely military in nature. The humans had somehow weaponized scientific principles the Empire had never even considered. In the hidden command center, humanity's leaders watched as the Empire's fleet shifted formation again. Their ships were now arranged in a defensive spiral, a clear sign they were taking no chances. But more importantly, long-range scans showed they were actively powering down their planet-killer weapons. Your species, came the Empire's first direct response, is unlike any we have encountered. You speak of peace while preparing for war. You warn us to avoid conflict by showing us how dangerous you are in conflict. This is unprecedented. The tension in Earth's command center ratcheted up another notch as the Empire's largest ship began moving. But instead of approaching Earth, it was positioning itself between Earth and the rest of their fleet. A defensive posture, not an offensive one. We have analyzed your species' capacity for warfare, the Empire continued, but more concerning is your capacity for escalation. Your history shows that humans become more innovative, more determined, and more dangerous the longer a conflict continues. Our simulation suggests that even if we won the initial battle, we would never win the war. The command center erupted in whispers. Was this really happening? Were they actually backing down? The council president raised a hand for silence as another transmission came through. However, the Empire's message took on a different tone. We have also noted something else in your history, something that makes your species truly unique in our experience. They paused, as if carefully choosing their next words. You are as skilled at making peace as you are at waging war. The entire command center held its breath. This was the moment everything hinged on. Would the Empire choose the path of peace, or would they force humanity to demonstrate just how accurate our warnings had been? Suddenly, multiple alarms began blaring. The Empire's fleet was moving again, but not in retreat. They were taking up new positions, their energy signatures changing in ways our sensors couldn't interpret. Something big was about to happen, but was it the beginning of peace, or the start of humanity's first interstellar war? The Supreme Commander's next words would determine the fate of both civilizations. Just as the Supreme Commander began to transmit their response, a new energy signature blazed across our sensors. It wasn't from the Empire's fleet. It was coming from beyond Pluto's orbit. A third player had entered the game. We've been monitoring your exchange, boomed a new transmission, broadcasting on all frequencies. The Hive Mind Collective has deemed this sector too valuable for either party to control. The signals were coming from a massive swarm of biomechanical ships, unlike anything Earth or the Empire had ever encountered. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The Empire's Supreme Commander didn't hesitate. Their fleet's formation shifted instantly, moving to protect not just their own ships, but Earth as well. It was a tactical decision made in a split second, but its implications were enormous. Humans, the Supreme Commander's transmission cut through the chaos. It appears we share a common enemy. The Hive Mind Collective is known to us. They don't conquer worlds. They consume them. Everything we've learned about your species in the last few hours suggests you're the last civilization we'd want allied with them. In the command center, tactical displays were lighting up like Christmas trees. The Hive Mind's ships were arranging themselves in attack formations we'd never seen before, but the Empire's fleet was already adapting, using maneuvers that seemed to anticipate their strategies. We fought the collective before, the Empire continued, but never successfully. Perhaps there was a pause that seemed to carry the weight of galaxies. Perhaps it's time to see what humanity's warfare expertise can bring to an alliance. The Council President stood, her decision already made, because if there's one thing humans understood better than warfare, it was the power of turning enemies into allies when facing a greater threat. Send them everything we have on cooperative warfare strategies, she ordered. Focus on joint operations, combined arms tactics, and historical examples of former enemies uniting against common threats. Her eyes narrowed as she watched the Hive Mind's ships advancing. Let's show them why humanity's greatest victories often came from working with yesterday's adversaries. As Earth's defensive grid powered up and the Empire's ships took up strategic positions around our planet, something unprecedented was happening. Two civilizations that had been on the brink of war were now rapidly sharing military doctrines, adapting strategies, and preparing to fight together. The Empire's tactical AI was already incorporating human warfare principles into its battle plans. Our defensive platforms were being synchronized with their shield systems, and in orbit above Earth, human spacecraft were taking formation alongside Imperial warships. But the hive mind had one more surprise in store. Their ships began emitting a signal that made both human and Imperial sensors go haywire. They weren't just here to conquer, they were here to test us, to see what would happen when the unstoppable force of the Empire met the immovable object of humanity's determination. As the collective's ships approached, the Supreme Commander opened a channel to Earth once more. "Your history shows you faced overwhelming odds before," they said. "We're about to find out if our combined strength can rewrite both our histories. Are you ready to show the galaxy what happens when human ingenuity meets Imperial power?" The President's response was pure humanity. "We're about to show them something better. What happens when former enemies fight as allies?" The battle that would change the course of galactic history was about to begin. The Hive Mind Collective's massive swarm darkened space like a rolling storm cloud, their biomechanical ships pulsing with an eerie, synchronized light. But they weren't facing divided opponents anymore. Humanity's hidden defenses emerged from their camouflage, joining the Empire's warships in a display of unified strength that would have been unthinkable just hours ago. "They're trying to split our forces," the Supreme Commander observed as the collective's ships began their approach. "A classic divide-and-conquer strategy. Then let's show them something they've never seen before," the Council President responded. "Initiative Thunderstorm is ready." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Empire's ships, with their superior technology, created a series of artificial gravity wells, while Earth's defense platforms used our newly developed quantum pulse technology. The combination did something extraordinary. It forced the hive mind's swarm into a predetermined battle space of our choosing. The collective, expecting to face two disorganized enemies, instead found themselves caught in humanity's specialty, a carefully prepared killing zone. The Empire's energy weapons synchronized perfectly with Earth's kinetic strike capabilities, creating a devastating crossfire that even the hive mind's advanced ships couldn't navigate. But the collective hadn't survived this long by being predictable. Suddenly, their ships began to merge, combining into massive structures that our simulations hadn't predicted. The Supreme Commander's tactical displays flashed with warning signals as the hive mind revealed their true form, a single planet-sized biomechanical entity. Now, the President's order rang out. This was the moment we'd been waiting for. Our apparent retreat wasn't a sign of weakness. It was positioning. While the Empire's ships held the line, Earth's orbital platforms activated their secret weapon. Not a new form of destruction, but something far more innovative, a quantum communication disruptor. The effect was immediate. The hive mind's unified consciousness began to fragment, their perfectly coordinated movements becoming chaotic. The Empire's Supreme Commander, watching in astonishment, finally understood why humans had survived so long despite our constant conflicts. We didn't just learn to fight, we learned to think differently. But victory celebrations came too soon. As the hive mind broke apart, each fragment revealed itself to be carrying something: spores, millions of them, already beginning to drift toward both Earth and the Empire's ships. "They're not trying to defeat us," the Supreme Commander realized with horror. "They're trying to infect us." That's when humanity revealed our final surprise. Those 6 months of preparation hadn't just been about weapons. We'd also developed something else, a biological countermeasure based on our long history of fighting pandemics. Remember how we mentioned human innovation? The President's voice was calm as she gave the order. "We've had plenty of practice fighting invisible enemies, too." A wave of engineered bacteria, harmless to both humans and the Empire's species, but devastating to the hive mind's biological components, was released. The spores began to disintegrate, and the remaining collective ships started to break down at a molecular level. As the threat dissolved into space dust, the Supreme Commander opened a channel to Earth one final time. But before they could speak, their sensors detected something else. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, more signals were appearing. Not hive mind ships this time. These were different. The Empire's long-range scanners identified them as refugees from other civilizations, drawn by the news of something unprecedented, a force that had finally stopped the collective. It seems, the Supreme Commander said, that our new alliance has already attracted attention. The galaxy is changing, and for once, it's not through conquest. The President smiled. Then let's show them something even better than how we fight together. Let's show them how we build peace together. As the refugee ships approached, humanity and the Empire prepared to write a new chapter in galactic history, not as conquerors or defenders, but as guardians of something far more powerful than any weapon: hope. The war that never happened had just changed everything. 10 years after the day Earth almost went to war with the Empire, the solar system had become unrecognizable. The refugee ships that arrived in those first few weeks were just the beginning. Word spread quickly across the galaxy about something unprecedented: two powerful civilizations that chose alliance over conquest, innovation over destruction. Where the Empire's warships once positioned their planet killers, massive space stations now orbited, serving as cultural exchange centers and diplomatic hubs. The ancient military installations hidden in Jupiter's moons had been converted into research facilities where human and imperial scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge to solve challenges that had stumped both civilizations for centuries. The Supreme Commander, now serving as the Imperial Ambassador to Earth, stood at the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching ships from a dozen different species dock and depart. "You know," they said to the former Council President, now Earth's Chief Diplomatic Officer, "when we first detected your civilization, our databases predicted a 97% chance of either conquest or destruction." "And now," she asked, already knowing the answer as she watched a group of human children playing with young aliens in the station's zero-gravity recreation area. "Now our analysts can't predict anything about Earth with any certainty," the Supreme Commander chuckled, "except that you'll probably prove them wrong anyway." The hive mind collective's defeat had changed more than just political boundaries. It had demonstrated something powerful: that diversity in thinking, in strategy, and culture wasn't a weakness to be conquered. It was a strength to be embraced. The Empire's rigid uniformity, combined with humanity's adaptability, had created something entirely new in the galaxy: a partnership of equals. Trade routes now crisscrossed the solar system, bringing technologies and ideas from across the galaxy. Earth's universities were filled with alien students eager to understand the species that had perfected the art of turning enemies into allies. Imperial academies now included mandatory courses on human history, not as a study of warfare, but as a testament to the power of innovation and adaptation. But perhaps the most significant change was in how both civilizations viewed themselves. Humans learned to temper their defensive instincts with the Empire's long-term perspective. The Empire learned to value the creative chaos that they once sought to control. Together, they became something greater than either could have been alone. The remnants of the hive mind's bio-ships, now inert and harmless, had been converted into a memorial that orbited the sun. It served as a reminder not of victory in battle, but of victory through unity. Each year, ships from across the galaxy would gather there to celebrate what became known as Alliance Day. As the former president watched a new group of refugee ships approach the solar system, she reflected on how close they'd come to making a very different history. "You know what the funny thing is," she said to the Supreme Commander. "If you'd attacked that day, we really would have fought to the last human. And if the collective hadn't appeared." She smiled. "I think we both know that neither of us really wanted to find out. Sometimes the best victories are the battles we choose not to fight." The Supreme Commander nodded, watching as Earth's defense platforms, now repurposed as navigational beacons, guided the newcomers safely into orbit. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson in all of this. True strength isn't in having the most powerful weapons or the largest fleet. It's in knowing when to use them, and more importantly, when not to. As the sun set on another Earth day, casting long shadows across the station's observation deck, both leaders watched their civilizations' combined achievements unfold before them. In the end, the empire that never had war with humans had discovered something far more powerful than conquest: they discovered partnership. And in doing so, they changed not just their own futures, but the course of galactic history itself. After all, as humanity had proven time and time again, the best stories aren't about how wars end, but about how peace begins.